Welcome back to the Edit Podcast. We are all the editors of our own lives. It's time to take back control.
So welcome back to another episode of the Edit Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. It's the CEO of VibroAcoustics, Jacob Allers. And I've wanted to do this podcast for a while because Jacob has been the co-founder of a product that I use almost every single day. It's the first thing that I show off to people when they come and visit me, and I truly believe that it works. And Jacob is actually also, VibroAcoustic is actually also the sponsor of this podcast. So I'm just very excited to be able to introduce Jacob. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Mess, and thank you for the lovely introduction.
Yeah, and I didn't say what you do because I was going to say that as well, but then I was like, I've got the man himself here, so I thought, why not let you introduce, like, what is VibroAcoustics, and what's the product that I'm talking about?
So VibroAcoustics is a product that sustains the music, which together becomes what is called vibroacoustic therapy, which is a therapy coined in 1971 by Olav Skille, a Norwegian doctor. And this therapy is based on using structural vibrations from the whatever product you're lying on, which our product is a bass floor, which is 2 meters long and 120 centimeters wide, and has a wooden plate that vibrates to the vibration of the music. And you can hear any kind of music on this product, but our label and I myself, I have a background as a sound therapist and as a yoga teacher. And we make music. We have our own concepts based on different scientific studies around natural environments, natural ambience, heart syncopation, as well as all the vibroacoustic studies and other modalities there are. We've created our own concepts for stress and for anxiety and for depression. And so it's the product with the music that becomes a treatment. It's an old thing. We have in the history, we've seen Mark Twain write, the great American epic writer, that he actually writes in the things in 1904 that he writes he has got cancer, and he goes to visit Nicola Tesla, his friend, who gives him 3 months of treatments with a vibroacoustic or vibration device. And he then writes he was treated from cancer, and the epic writer continued to write. So this is one of the earlier or later, you could say early Western documentations of this exact therapy. But it also goes back to all the way back to ancient cultures of Egypt, creating resonant chambers like the pyramids, where you play one certain frequency and then the whole room will start reverberating massively. So what actually the pyramids are built for is, in this theory of the sound healers, that they would create rooms where they would vibrate so much by creating self-sustaining resonant chambers that they could heal or they could regenerate cells. So it's an ancient practice to regenerate cells by creating vibration. And today, what has happened is the West has caught up on it and have basically approved it through many different modalities, which is what we're tapping into. The situation is that to approve a medicinal treatment and to get it sold, everyone knows it's the hardest field of business to enter. And that's why we're seeing this, so to speak, when we look at it from a global level, why has this massively potential treatment not come further? So coming back to what is vibroacoustics, we are a movement trying to push the frontier of this therapy being developed and applied and researched. We just received 275,000 Danish kroner grant, where we're going to research on the effect of our vibroacoustic sound massage treatment for stress with Syddansk University, 2 companies, and a full-time employed researcher who's going to make a PhD in this later. So what we're trying to do is to create the music, innovate the product, and innovate the way we research the applicable research into a treatment. So it's a company of many pillars, and we are that because we try to create a movement in the aspect of employing ambassadors to not only host our basic experience, which is automated sound relaxation. You lie down, you find the track you want to listen to, light or deep and strong, and you relax. That's the basis of the treatment. There's nothing to do except just to, similar like deep sleep, let the body regenerate itself. And the vibrations are so conducive for the mind because of the music. The mind enjoys into the vibrations, and the vibrations become our cognitive point of focus. The more we enjoy the music, the more we enjoy the treatment, the more we become cognitively aware, the better the effect of what is called the vagus nerve stimulation. And that is why we've created a movement, because we see that similar to the way that we use media, you don't watch the same movie on Netflix again and again and again. You find a movie or a documentary, and then you want to watch something a little bit similar but different next time. So that's why we're creating a movement, is to have something of a Netflix online portal where we represent our different concepts produced from different producers and different therapists. And in that sense, we're trying to say, it's not that we invented the truth, we just continue to develop what is already there.
Right.
But we want to empower other people to proceed developing this treatment, because the first step is you could buy a product, you could buy the content through the platform and take our facilitator education, and you actually could start making money hosting people's relaxation sessions. And if you're already a massage therapist, then it can fit into, or any body work, it can fit into your pre-existing treatment, because what it does, it automates the relaxation and the safety of the user, the emotional safety. And that is one of the strongest selling points or USPs, is that the most expensive thing in Denmark is our health system. The thing we spend the most money on as taxpayers is the health system. And the most expensive item on the list on this budget is the anxiety treatments. And that is because the anxiety, you can't just give a tranquilizing pill and it will go away. It will keep the symptoms down, but it's not a solution. So it's similar to someone telling you just relax. It doesn't really work very well. And that's why we don't really have an efficient treatment that is objectively applicable on a rather universal level that can then be personalized. And that is what we've developed, is the possibility to have, for example, people with anxiety, which is an epidemic today, if you look at the statistics, without someone holding them in the hand, which is super costly for any organization, institution to provide personal resources, human resources, that we're then able to, with that human resource, give people an experience where they'll find comfort and safety in their own nervous system. Because essentially, anxiety is an issue in the nervous system that is getting too tense, too pressed. And then it becomes this pressure, which is actually an electromagnetic, nano electromagnetic field in our heart. So when you feel your heart contracts, when you feel your chest contracting because of anxiety, it's because there actually is electromagnetic energy that is pulling you and contracting you together. And that is the function of the heart, is to contract and expand. And we're able to automate this otherwise extremely expensive process of making people feel relaxed. So that's what VibroAcoustics is trying to push this frontier on as many levels as we can, creating you could say almost a rainbow colored Netflix portal, so you can find the right piece of content for you right now.
That's a good tagline right there. I like that. Rainbow colored Netflix portal for the right content for you. Well, I mean, just a little bit of context. The way that we met was through a mutual friend who was actually working at my production company, and knew that I was obviously working on a film about anxiety and depression. And he said, well, you should go and you should try this treatment. So my brother and I went one day to this beautiful studio that you have in Copenhagen, where you've got these bass modules, as you call them, that are connected so that it's basically the whole floor is these bass modules. And for those of you who don't know what that means, because that can be a little bit confusing, it's kind of like a raised platform. It's really stylish looking, made from like beautiful quality wood, raised up, has a little knob on the side where you can plug in your iPhone or any kind of sound device, your headphones, and then you can lie down on it. And then there's speakers inside, subwoofers inside, that don't actually produce the like sound that we can hear, but just the bass. Is that kind of a fair way of explaining it?
Yes.
So it's like hidden inside of this clean, smooth, raised platform. It kind of looks like a bed, and then you lie down on it and you can experience these vibrations that are connected to the music that you then listen to either on big speakers, in the case in the studio, or on headphones if you're by yourself. And I experienced, you showed me that experience for the first time, and I'd never tried anything like it. Like, it was just on another category entirely. And whenever another category entirely is I find out about it, it's kind of like, what the hell? How didn't I know about this before? Breath work, yoga, meditation, cold exposure, any kind of mindfulness practice, physical activity. Obviously heard of those things, tried those things, but vibrational therapy, I'm like, what the hell is this? So I asked if we could do an interview, and we did, and one thing led to the next, and I'm like, I need to incorporate this experience, this combination of the product and what it's used for, into the retreats that I want to do. So I called you up, and we've had multiple long conversations about what we're trying to do, and there's a lot of things that are aligning, and I'm just super grateful that we've been able to connect. And I think it's just such a I'm always looking for like that next thing, not as like the foundational things aren't good enough, but like, how far can you really push something, or how can you combine two things that you've never combined before? So like, something that I've started to experiment with a lot is doing breath work with the vibrational therapy. And I think that's really interesting. But that's a whole nother conversation. I'm actually really interested to hear a little bit more about the original sound that you create and produce, because that's a huge part of it, right? I mean, like, when you came here, you actually helped me install this. You provided me with like a bunch of audio tracks, and I didn't even realize that was such a big part of what you guys do. You don't just build these things, like you said, you actually produce content to be played through it. So tell me a little bit about that.
I'm happy you asked, because for me, that is why I'm here. It's because I've experienced since I was a child that I was able to self-medicate using music. And what I needed to is the same task as a DJ, is to find the right piece of music at the right time for the state of mind that is wished to be present. And so this is something that I have used since I was very young, looking for the right pieces of music and sitting and just being with that. And that has led to me developing a very intimate relationship with what are the psychosomatic effects of sound, and realizing that there's nothing, and I think we all know this, that there's nothing that can change your emotional registry, change your nervous system and the way you feel inside yourself as fast as music. Everyone has this experience that we're maybe feeling a little bit sad, and suddenly this piece of music just comes on, and we're like, wow, yeah, whoa. So we all know how it is. Probably I'm saying, I will say it is, but that's my belief, and it's also what the science seems to point at, is that it's the most efficient way to speak to our bodies, even to our minds. But when I say to our bodies first, it's because music can do two things. Music is psychoacoustics and it's vibroacoustics. Psychoacoustics is the aspect of sound that we hear. This is the aspect where we use our ears, which has a registry from 22,000 hertz all the way down to which is the discussion around 20 or 16 hertz. And the rest of frequencies become inaudible. I will say that from my experiments, then we can hear bass till quite low, and we can feel it even below 16, which is another scientific discussion. But we're basically wired to hear music, but equally as much to feel music. Normal music has an invasive character. Normal music, what you hear on the radio, tries to create a hook that makes your mind repeat it. So it tries to jump out of the radio and take your attention and be like, hey, now we're talking about sad love. So this is music that tries to take your attention, and with tension and release, which is what music really is about, is to keep you focused, to keep you present, to keep you cognitively inspired to be there in the experience. Which is, if you look at it as the point of a sound therapist, which is where my background is. I'm trained from very, very experienced sound therapists around the world. Particularly Israel has a very strong community of these people practicing regenerating with sound. And what we observe when we study sound therapy is that we have a emotional registry, which is the psychoacoustics to sound, which is very based on our cultural programming. In India, they like quarter tones. In the West, we think it sounds awful. So we have a different mental relationship to music. But here comes the point. We all react the same way to bass. If there's let's say there's something over here that drops. I could even just give us an example. I have a piece of wood here. I drop it, and it creates a sound, but also creates a pressure. And this pressure we are wired to react to before we react to our thoughts. We have all experienced that. We're standing on the road, we're looking for a car. We thought we could walk, and suddenly a car comes, and we didn't even see it, and our body just stops like a shock. We didn't think, oh, there's a car, because we didn't see it. We just stopped because we heard it and we felt the pressure coming closer. That means that if you understand nervous systems, we have to understand the environments where they developed. Our nervous systems are still living in nature. They're still living out in the African savanna or the jungles or the forests. And that means that if you hear this intense low frequency sound in a way that shocks you, it's basically your nervous system trying to save you by saying, hey, there's an animal approaching, there's danger approaching. Adrenaline, cortisol, release, activation of this fight and flight mode. Am I going to fight this thing, or am I going to just run away? The other side of this system is that if it's a sound that is not very staccato and very surprising, but if it's something that has an ongoing rhythm, and especially an ongoing rhythm that is slower than your heart rate, then it works opposite. Instead of bringing us to alarm, it brings us to calm. And why do we know that? First off is the sound therapist that they have studied for years, and it's also the basis of the ancient sound therapy, where you would have a shaman in a little super smoky hut with all kinds of oils and smoke and fire and all kinds of elements. And what they were actually synthesizing is lying inside the womb of our mother. We have all the characters of closed space, elements like, water in the air, even like smoke, like feeling like we're really inside, covered around in elements, like in the womb of our mother. When we're in the womb of our mother, we heard the sounds of her blood, which is perhaps why we all get calmed and we all say, because that was the sound of what we heard in our mother. And either it was stressing us because she was running around and being stressed, or we could hear the slow pulsation of blood through the veins, which would calm us. But before we developed the hearing, which I think, as far as I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, is in the 18th week. Before we developed the hearing, we had developed the ability to feel pressure on our skin and inside our bodies. So that's the first sense we develop, is to pick up pressure, air pressure. So before we heard the shh, we felt the because inside our mother's womb, she vibrates with low frequencies. And that was the way our mother told us to relax, because now her system relaxes. That means we, as a little child or embryo, could relax and start taking nutrition from our mother. Nature is about one thing: conserving life. So it's all about, am I going into alarm, or am I conserving energy and resting and regenerating? That's the dance of nature, dance of life. And what we see here is that sound can activate us with stress. Hey, we're going now, it's gonna be great. Something like pop song. It's actually a stressful reaction.
Right.
Or it could be, and it'll be a calming effect. And that is whenever the energy is higher than our heart rate will be lifted up. That's why we love going to dance music, because it's uplifting music, because our heart rate is and then suddenly or whatever music you listen to, it brings your heart rate up, which also it creates movement inside your body, which creates pleasure, because movement creates the circulation that takes out toxins and waste material and makes us absorb nutrition and release the dopamines.
Right.
So that's why we both find dopamine in the stressed and joyful state of dance, or even stressing around working. But the truth is, when we regenerate and when we're calm, we have much more release of dopamine. And we have a much stronger connection to our mammalian brain, to our emotional registry. So this is a little bit of background. What does it mean practically to how we shape the sound? It means that we create music that is as much as possible non-invasive. We're not trying to make super fast.
Sure.
What we're trying to do is create, you can imagine like a carpet, or like almost like an ocean of sound that massages you and keeping you in this frequency where everything is all the time kind of the same, but it's all the time changing. And your mind can't register the changes within the music, but it notices it in a gradient. And that means that we put the mind into a place of comfort, because it's safe. I know the sound. I feel safe in the sound, but also I'm interested in what's going to happen next, because I can hear it's changing and it's evolving.
Right.
And that essentially is the recipe for non-invasive music, where you as the listener have to tell yourself, yes, I want to listen. It's called deep listening. You have to activate your listening ability, where normal music tries to do it for you.
That's very interesting, because that you're putting words to a feeling that I've had listening to the music that you produce, which is you can forget that you're listening to it, and then you remind yourself that it's happening again. You can kind of get lost in your thoughts in a way that doesn't happen with a lot of other music. So that makes sense.
And it's interesting what you say, is because it's not a fight for your higher frequency attention, which are the thoughts. Just to prove that fact, if I say it doesn't affect your thoughts much, but if I say it'll fuck up your thoughts, because that's where the registry is in frequencies. So whenever you want to get people to be quiet, you can just say really high-pitched noise and everyone's like, what's happening? Which is the same what happens when you clap.
Right.
But this means that, and I'm really happy you have this experience, because this means that what the optimal state is a state where you can process what you need to process. instead of telling you to listen to a sad love story or a good love story, then it's natural ambience. And we create music a little bit differently from our producers. I have a concept that's called VibroAcoustic sound massage, and it's based on the science that proves the effect of natural ambience on our nervous system, which is that if we are standing in nature and there's a storm coming, our nervous system will start preparing itself, releasing cortisol and adrenaline to prepare. But if the nature is playing beautiful bird sounds, you can hear how relaxed and safe and comfortable the nature is. There's no lurking tiger around the corner. It's not going to rain. All of these sounds we have in our nervous system and in our instinctual brain learned since time began. It's just because we don't need it in modern society, we forget. But that's what I said before. These kind of natural sounds of wind or water have a certain effect on us. And if they're used in the right way, it gives the idea to the nervous system that I'm in a safe place of nature and here I can regenerate. What happens then is that because it's not fighting for your thoughts, you can easily start thinking and go into another story. But because of the vibrations, you're getting so much information that the thoughts have less energy because the body is processing all this information coming in. And therefore, you can't put your full attention into the brain because the body's already spending a lot of that energy to react to the low frequency information coming in. And that means that's the secret trick to why it's so helpful, the most helpful thing that I know of. And I do have a strong background to be able to say this, that I've meditated avidly since I was 14, and I've been educated to become a monk, lived in India and meditated a lot. I know how hard it is. And this is a cheat code. And because of the physical input, that's where the cheat code comes in, that we come out of our thoughts. But because the music is non-invasive, you leave your thoughts faster and you become present in your sensory being. But still, thoughts may arise, and probably what you notice after some time, similar to meditation, maybe some dilemmas or issues that you're struggling with will kind of surface up, maybe because they're ripe to be dealt with. And that is what I try to achieve here. Instead of telling you, you need to regenerate this or this, I don't know. Your body knows even better than any doctor or your mind what needs to be regenerated. And the second you give it that opportunity and you cognitively tell you it's regeneration time, the body will bring vibration and movement and circulation to the place that is the least vibration, circulation, and movement. So if your throat hurts, you'll probably had this experience. You'll suddenly notice that your throat is really vibrating a lot because your body sends the energy and the movement to the point, the weakest point in the body. And that is the aim here with the music, is to create a landscape where you're inspired to regenerate and to process and to contemplate and reflect on your own situation.
Right.
And that is essentially the strongest way to regenerate, because we can go as a doctor and say, now we need to do this, but the body always works with all of components, all of the organs, all of the processes, all of the whole functions of the body in one cohesion. And that's why the body is the best healer, the best medicine for ourselves, is just giving it the right nutrition and time, and it will regenerate itself. But we're just too busy doing it in the West to lie in for 4 hours in the forest and calm down. And that's why we've come up with this tool, this treatment, which if you are inspired by the music, it happens within 15 minutes.
So, yeah, I mean, you're obviously very, very knowledgeable about this whole area. You're very passionate. You've got I'll say for myself, a really, really great product and music that comes with it. And you spoke a little bit about this movement that you're creating, and I wanted to talk a little bit about, like, what's the ultimate goal for you, or maybe even the business, maybe moving a little bit away from, I think you've done a good job of explaining of what it is that's going on and why it's important, but like, yeah, what's your aim moving forward? Are you trying to get to more people? Are you trying to get these into the homes? Are you trying to get these into schools? Or like what's the play? Where are you working towards?
Like any company that comes up with a product that could seemingly be used anywhere, we wish to have it anywhere. But also you can't.
Sure.
You have to allow time to take its time. Our aim is a trifold thing. What we wish and what we see is that when people go into therapy, when people go into a medicinal process, they're not doing it because they want to, they're doing it because they have to, which also means that people would prefer to not do it if they could not do it, which means that all medicinal and therapeutic processes has an aspect of negativity. I don't want to be here. I want to be outside with my friends, which creates an aspect of this regeneration process not being complete, because we're not, I want this, I want to be super healthy, and yeah, which inspires the body, wakes up all the cells, and moves things to regenerate. But instead, because I want this over with, I'm thinking about my dinner, then we become not present. So why am I talking about this? We have a trifold aim. We've already established ourselves in culture, creating concerts, hosting experiences at festivals, etc. The second thing is therapy, wellness, combining it with treatments that already existing, that can be backed up by science, also not backed up by science, but by experience and subjective subjective experience and years of having developed these treatments, like yoga, like massages, body therapies of all kinds. The last thing, which is the aim, you could say, but the aim is to create a circular wheel, but the aim is to go to medicine. Culture, therapy / wellness, medicine. So if you look at it from the old Greek philosophical standpoint, because we're trying to create a complete system. In the Greek philosophy, everything is in a combination of the three elements of pathos, ethos, and logos. Pathos is emotions, ethos is safety and trust, and logos is reason. Pathos, that's the concert. You go to just, wow, this is super inspiring. Ethos, you go to a treatment with a therapist because you trust that he or she can help you with the massage or whatever it would be. Medicine, you go because the science has told us that it works like this every time, and logically, with reason, it makes sense to do that. We aim to have our treatment available through the Danish health system. So you can go to your doctor and you can say, I'm stressed, I'm depressed, I have anxiety. What would you suggest me to do? And that instead of just giving you pills, not to say anything against the existing ways to deal with it, not that those have to stop, but that there is an option that has no side effects, that's fun, and it works immediately if you like the music. So the aim is to bring it into the health system. But why did I spend all this time talking about Greek philosophy? Is because what we see is that when people are in the health system, they do something to get out of their health, as I explained before. And then when they get better, then they often stop that process and go back to the way they lived before. So if we just did medicine, it means that the people who would be treated with us, they would stop doing the treatments once it started working and got better, and they didn't maybe have to do that much treatments. There we hope to bring them back to point one, to bring them to a state where they can go to a cultural experience where they're not thinking that, oh, I want to get back to having a good time, that they've actually bought a ticket to have a good time at a concert with their friends, which is a vibroacoustic concert, which in that sense prevents disease, because we are being treated with our nervous systems while we're having fun with our friends. And in that way, we're able to create a preventive culture, which means that if you come from medicine and things are getting better and you now want to go back to your normal life, the treatment can exist in a cultural format. It can also exist in going and finding a massage therapist. So what we're trying to create here, the aim is a circular wheel. We have young kids coming in from concerts. They realize that they have anxiety or depression. They realize that this can be an efficient way to treat it. They can take a treatment, or that, for example, with a therapist, or they can take our soon to be, once the data has been, once we have done our science and we have approved the modality, then it will be an actual medicine. So the aim is to have a movement that exists in all these three layers of society, that is interconnected, so people are able to find the next interesting thing. Oh, I want to try this beautiful concert. Oh, I want to try this amazing medicine. Oh, I want to try this massage therapy. So there's always something new and exciting and interesting to try, instead of just giving you a treatment that you want to finish and get over with. So that's the aim for us when you look at it from the treatment point of view and how we hope to create a movement. The aim for us as a company in a practical level is, now we are creating our next batch of products, the base floor. We're basing it on an affiliate marketing strategy, which is to sell base floors to ambassadors like yourself, to talk about it, to spread it, to facilitate it, and give other people the experience, and for the ambassadors to make it their own experience, that we can give them our music that they can use in their own way and set up in their own ways, with educations of how and what and why. And a little bit like, you know sauna goose, when you go to sauna and there's a guy or woman spinning a towel and oils and maybe a theme. I was once in a sauna goose, which was about Oktoberfest. So they had like beer smelling oils in the sauna. It was kind of funny, but I loved it because it's personalization. And that's what we would like to see, that people, and that's what we're creating now, is different therapeutic clinics around Denmark. We have 3 right now where you can go and have treatments, in Aalborg and 2 in Copenhagen. And we wish that there will be many, many small hubs of these treatments, that each of them maybe focus in a little bit of a different segment, focusing on different diseases that to the therapists themselves relate. Because often therapists that work with depression have been depressed themselves. And that's the same. I can say that I've been very depressed as a child. And that's why I've developed a lot of depression music, or depression release music. So the hope is to, in the movement aspect, to empower people with products, empower people with music and educations, so they can continuously reinvent and redevelop treatments, or develop new treatments.
Right.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I can already tell that from my use of the base module, I've developed my own little ritual. That I, like when people are over, I'm like, oh, we got to do it this way. We got to do this first, then we got to do that. And then afterwards we should brainstorm, because like when I do it, I get all these ideas, and it's, there's like this feeling of wanting to share it and wanting to pass it along, for sure. So my next question is, so that's the goal, which is obviously, it's quite a general goal in terms of like, this is where we need to go. And you talked a little bit about the research that still needs to be done in order for this to be kind of taken to the next level. Is there another obstacle that you can see that's kind of challenging at the moment? Like, what's the main thing that's keeping you from making as fast progress as you would like?
Interestingly enough, I personally wouldn't say it's necessarily the science, because going back to these 3 points of perspective, culture, therapy, and medicine, there's this whole wellness world where people go and have a treatment that is not necessarily backed up as a medicinal treatment, but around the long culture and personal subjective experience.
Yeah.
which means that people need to have trust, ethos, need to trust the experience, and then they would like to have it.
Yes.
So the main challenge for us is to make it available,
Yeah.
to make many therapy spaces before we have an actually medicinally approved treatment so we can sell to hospitals. Then we can sell privately and to companies and institutions. And the aim for us is to make this accessible. Right now, we are standing with the challenge of our next production. We have got an offer from the incubator that we're part of, Sound Hub Denmark, that is in Struer, in the city of sound, that they'd like to produce them for us. So that was actually our previous obstacle, is to set up the production lab, which has been going well. Now we've got an offer to do that, which is able to delegate that and take a step back to the biggest obstacle right now, which is the Netflix portal.
Right.
It's creating actually an app where you can time and you can plan your use of the music. So it can work as an alarm clock. I can just show you. I'm sitting here on my VibroAcoustic module, as I always do. I have it on when I work, so I receive treatments while I'm working, and it's energizing my nervous system and makes me more efficient while I work. But I also, when I wake up, I like to just roll over and press play on the computer and have 15 minutes just before I even activate my brain.
That's cool. It's my guest bed. So when someone stays, they sleep on a mattress on that. And I'm always like, you can plug it in, right?
Oh, that's beautiful. And it's funny because it's a new tool. People have to get acquainted when using it, but it's using it before sleep and just after sleep, I think, are the optimal times, because then you just drift into sleep. And also you can put a piece of music on that's a bit more energizing. Obviously we have music that's more for sleep and music that's more for energizing, even more rhythmical music that can wake you up and prepare you for the day and still calm your nervous system. So it's this daily use, and it's these smart moments where you use it, where you really understand the benefit of it. And that's, for me, the aim, is that people can go and take sessions with therapists. But of course, the aim is that we'd like to see consumers purchasing the product and lying in their home and going on our Netflix portal and just sitting with their family and watching one movie after the other, one journey after the other. The challenge here is to develop this app where you can time it. So at 8 o'clock in the morning, this piece of music starts by itself. At 7 o'clock in the evening, this music starts by itself. So it's developing the user interface of how you create personalized rhythms and routines, enhancing your everyday life using this experience.
So like actually creating the software is the challenge, or getting people to want to use that?
No, well, the issue is not as much for people to use the content, because as you say yourself, you're using it. The issue is for us, and for me personally as the CEO, I have one foot or organizing everybody's processes and organizing the company's development. And my other main task is I'm our creative director. So I'm managing setting up this platform. And
yeah, those are two full-time jobs.
It's two full-time job in itself. So I've been struggling a little bit to have time to develop it, but everything is kind of ready to push buttons and
okay, that makes more sense. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so the challenge really you're saying is that you need more people, right? You need not just more people, but the right people who know kind of what you know. It's always that fear, right? Of like, how can I delegate something that's literally like one of the most important things that I feel like I'm, an expert on. How do I hand that task onto someone else, or at least involve them? So how are you dealing with that? What are you doing to work on that obstacle?
Luckily, I'm not alone. I have a person who we are looking to acquire in the company from Cuba, who's an educated affiliate marketing person. And he's already created the pilot for the third-party platform Systema.io that we're going to use. And we are, as a company itself, all of us have a big foot in the music. So now that some of our production is getting cleared up, Joachim, our CTO, is also a very, very gifted musician. And what I need is to sit with a little group to finalize our strategy, finalize the pricings of the memberships, and host it on the site that's already set up. So it's a few steps. So within the next year, we'll see the launch of this beginning of new year. We'll see the launch of the initial state of the platform, which will be a beta version. So in a sense, I say as a CEO, it's our biggest obstacle because it's the user experience. And that's always what it will come back to, is to create the optimal user journey, that you find the right piece of music at the right time. And then when you're ready for more, like what Spotify is really good at, you're being suggested the right thing for more. So we've created the whole background around that. And now it's like the tip of the iceberg is the user interface. That's what you see, that's what you touch, that's what you experience. And how to personalize that is where we're making an MVP solution, a minimal viable product using a third-party platform. But what we'd really like to do is develop our own app, as I said before,
Sure.
which is a lot of funding and a team of developers.
Sure.
And we're installing that a little bit for the future, running with the MVP for the next few years.
When it comes to something like marketing, I'm curious. Do you get people who, obviously you get people at festivals, you get people at, when you invite people to concerts. Do you ever get anyone who has found you like on their own, or is it all very like direct contact that leads to some kind of sale, for example? How does that work?
We started very much in an aspect of organic growth.
Sure.
And now we've, since a year now, have had a strong SoMe campaign going on mostly Instagram and Facebook. And what we're experiencing now is that pretty much everywhere we go, we have people meeting, telling us that they've heard about us.
Oh, that's cool.
And both a lot of people who heard about us from friends that have had experiences, but also people who have even founded themselves by looking into vibroacoustic science and research. And that group of people are more actually engineers and people that are studying. Now, we were at DTU yesterday as part of the Danish Sound Cluster Day, which is the organization for sound companies in Denmark, that were hosting their annual meetup, and we were pitching our project. And we met quite a few people, and there was, for example, a woman that had heard about us and found out about it, went to the website and read, and then was basically just saying, hey, I'm here, I'm a researcher, I'm a massage therapist, can I help, how can I provide?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it makes it easier, right, when people already heard of you.
Yes, and that is why we're focusing, even though we haven't actually had a product to sell, except a few beta products that one of you have, we haven't had that to sell publicly.
Right.
So still, we've been building this marketing campaign because it's a lot about educating people that you can now press a button and enter the highest state of deep relaxation within just 15 minutes. It's still a little bit of a new thing when someone develops a nuclear bomb, and it takes time for us to understand the effect. And it's only when it has landed on a huge area we all understand the effect.
Yeah, I'm kind of like psychedelics, right? I mean, it's a similar trajectory that you're talking about, needing the research, needing people to understand. You don't necessarily have the like negative association that something like psychedelics has to like combat. You kind of start from fresh, right?
That is exactly like the magic of this project, is that why we're doing it is because we come from a background of people who love music, who've dedicated their life to music and to moving their bodies. And they've all figured out how to make themselves happy. And there's this whole group of creative people who didn't just get a job and got stressed and then got sad because they got stuck too much to try to change it. but have changed their whole life trying to find that happiness, that safety, that contentment with themselves. And that's why if all the musicians we're working with, we don't even need to show them research because they know it. They know the effect. They
Right.
know the importance and the value of it. So in that sense, how can we make other people understand that we already know, all of us, as I said earlier, the experience of music, but backing it up with data of science, of other people's science, and explaining the actual physiology behind is this ongoing theme. We realized that I think just ahead from my number that 9 out of 10 people I ask do not know what the vagus nerve is.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know.
The vagus nerve, in short, is the stem of nerves that run from the brainstem into the spine all the way down to our butt. And all of our nerves are connected to this main nerve going out to the organs controlling the functions. That means that if your vagus nerve is vibrating in the right state, it sends the electrical impulses and signals for the body to move undisturbed.
Right.
But if you're stuck in chronic stress, for example, then your body's in a state of fire, basically. And if you keep pressing fire into your system, then these signals will start shooting slower and slower because there's less and less healthy vibration. It's the same as what we see people are getting depressed. They become so sad that they sleep all the time because there's almost no vibration.
Right.
And once we vibrate the vagus nerve and bring it into the right vibration, which is what music normally does with psychoacoustics, but we're applying the vibroacoustics, which is what we feel when we go to a big concert, the vibration in our nerves, vibration in our cells. And that, in effect, changes the way we think, because that's the one controlling where's the nutrition going, where's the dopamine going, when is it coming, how is it coming.
So the thing you're talking about, I just want to make clear, you're not talking about like hypothetical or spiritual vibration. You're talking about literal vibration, measurable science, right? That's the part that's yeah. You know, it's important to get that right.
And that's the interesting thing, because in Danish, you used to in the old days say that people would have slidden hour. They would have like, worn down nerves, or they would have like, what's it called? Like hyperactive nerves. You would talk about, oh, her nerves are completely broken down. So they already knew it in the past that once you've been wound up too much or been working too hard, then it affects your nerves. So it's an old understanding we have, and now with modern neurology we are able to observe and measure these vibrations, and we're using the tool called EEG, which is able to observe the electric movements on a graph, how much electric movements, how much vibration are there in the nerves, and from that we're able to understand the different nervous vibrations from the different states. How are we vibrating when we are stressed? We're vibrating very, 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 very fast. We're vibrating, I think, from 18 to 25 hertz or something like that is the beta frequency. When you are really present and having fun, or you're like in between dreams and kind of sleep, you're typically in the alpha frequency, which is also what happens when you're playing music or you're really engaged in playing or having sex or something. We go into the alpha frequency, which is slower than the beta wave. And that means that our nervous system, instead of actually physically being like this, which is what stress is, then it's like this. And then we go deeper into theta, and then we go into delta in deep sleep. And it's like, which is, I think delta is like 1 hertz to 4 hertz, which means that each amplitude cycle is basically in a second only 4 times. So it's basically it's a little bit hard to wind your mind around it, that this is science, but there is no doubt that we come to this point of understanding how we process information. So my hand is moving like this right now is because my nervous system is telling my hand to do it, because I told my brain to my nervous system to move my hand like this.
Mm.
In that sense, what we know now, that if people are in a very regenerative state in their nervous system, in these slower brainwave frequencies, you use less energy to do the same movement. And that's why stress is so lethal in a chronic state, is because you're overexerting energy all the time. And again, coming back to the point of nature, the purpose of nature is to conserve itself. And that's the ability that we've lost.
So, okay, I'd like to end on this, if it's okay with you. One thing that I do with some of the businesses that I coach is a series of 3 questions. And I think it's kind of interesting, having heard everything you've talked about. I'm just thinking about it now. The first question is, and you've already gone over this, but it's in one sentence, currently in this moment, meaning discarding your vision, what business are you in is the question. What would you say the business you are in is, on a very like practical level, in a single sentence?
Whole body psychosomatic treatments.
Great. That's perfect. And then the second question is, what business are you really in?
Smart vibrating furniture business that also loves music.
See, it just does something, right? That like, it's like it's like, someone might say, oh, I'm in the insurance business, but what you're really in is you're in the business of making sure that people can protect the lives of those they care about in the future. Like that's a different business, right? It means something different. Can you say it again? What was it in the
first one?
No, the second one, the vibrating furniture.
A smart vibrating furniture business that loves music. That's kind of the simple format. What I would say on a more beautiful philosophical level, we're a business that sells efficient and scientifically proven relaxation.
Amazing. And then there's a third question. Well, we can end on that, which is, what business should you be in? If you think about, the transformation of where you're trying to go and where you are now versus where you want to get, what's a way that you could think about what you're currently doing and say, what's the business I should be in? Maybe it would give an insight, and you might already have that.
I would say we're already in it. And I think the main thing comes down to content production, because there are already other vibroacoustic products out there. There are lots of great products out there. And the more this grows, there will be more products out there. But creating music, there's very few people who can create actual good music and get it out and get people to really get connected with it. Of course, it's becoming much more accessible today, which is much many more people able to do it. But the hardest thing is that these business people that can create a similar product, they can't create a similar piece of music.
Mm.
So essentially, we're content producers and distributors.
Yeah, something about, like, you've touched on this multiple times in this conversation, of like, when the business of spreading a conscious movement of sound therapy, or something about the movement, which goes away from the like literal production of furniture that vibrates, and more about, well, how can we actually spread the word and the care and the need for this?
I mean, if you were to say it like that, we are a smart vibrating furniture company that creates the new sound for our nervous systems, being a movement that continuously reinterpretate sustainability.
Well, that's something. Well, I mean, I really appreciate you taking the time, and I feel like this is a conversation that is only just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many more things that we could talk about. Where can people learn more? Where can they find you? Where can you find your business? Where can they do business with you? Where can they, if the stage is yours.
We can go to VibroAcoustics.dk and access our website and read about the science, read about what we're doing. In the new year, you'll find access there to the different clinics that we have around Denmark, as well as purchasing the product. If you want to just receive daily information, you should go to Instagram and follow us on there, where we are pretty much every day posting about and creating stories about our work and the efficiency and the effect of it. And if you have any interest in having an experience or creating an experience or hosting an experience somewhere, or you find someone or someplace that could really need this, we are a movement. So if someone is willing to work with us and help us to sell modules, we give commission rates. If someone wishes to create music, we have educations for them to learn how to do it with us. Someone wishes to do therapies with this, we have educations how to do that, and a network of therapists. We are a movement, and our hands are reaching out for people to take this tool into their hand and enhance their own practice and enhance their own livelihoods together as a culture that's now a subculture that will hopefully grow to become mainstream culture, and that we all doing this together. So this is an open invitation for anyone to have an experience or be part of creating the experience, from technicians to musicians to scenography, people making installations, interior design. We're really calling out for anyone who wants to create a better world, creating these sensory rooms, which we call sensoriums.
Amazing. I mean, hearing you say that even people like helping with selling the things for a commission, I mean, I'd love to look at that. I think that'd be an interesting way to potentially work together more than we already are. Last thing is, obviously most people listening probably don't have a bass module in their room like I do. What's something, and they might not even be in Denmark, so they can't go to any of the festivals that you organize or any of the events that you put on. What's something that they can do today to be more relaxed?
Listen to the music. Go on our SoundCloud. You can go on our website and find a link from there. You can access our music for free, some of it. And if you have good headphones that has some bass frequencies, if you have a speaker system with some bass frequencies, you will already get the effect. You don't actually need a vibroacoustic bass floor. You just need to listen to the music. And the more you tell yourself that I'm here to listen to this, to become ready and relaxed, to become present and relaxed, the more it works. So the music works even without the vibrations.
Amazing. That's perfect. That's awesome. Because it's always nice for listeners to be able to go and actually take some action. So yeah, guys, go and check that out and listen to the music and see if it doesn't do something for you, because it's done something for me for sure. So thank you so much, Jacob, and I look forward to having you back on the podcast at some point.
Beautiful. Thank you for having me.
Don't miss next week's episode of the Edit Podcast. Subscribe now.